They thought destroying me would be the end of my story, but it was actually just the beginning of theirs. Everyone told me to move on, take the settlement, and disappear quietly like a good girl, but I chose justice instead. My name is Rebecca Chen Martinez, and for 25 years, I built my reputation as one of the most innovative minds in healthcare technology. What happened next proved that sometimes the best revenge is building an empire on the ashes of their betrayal. Let me take you back to when I still believed loyalty mattered in business. For the first 45 years of my life, I thought that hard work, brilliant ideas, and treating people with respect would be enough to succeed. I was the founder and CEO of Medcor AI, the company I built from absolutely nothing into a $50 million healthcare revolution. We were developing artificial intelligence that could diagnose rare diseases faster than any human doctor, potentially saving millions of lives and billions in healthcare costs. I had sacrificed everything for this company. My marriage ended because I spent more time in the lab than at home. I missed my daughter's graduation because I was presenting to investors in Singapore. I liquidated my retirement accounts, sold my house, and lived in a studio apartment for 3 years while pouring every cent into research and development. My Chinese grandmother always said that building something meaningful requires sacrificing everything comfortable, and I took those words to heart. The technology we created was groundbreaking. Our AI could analyze medical scans and patient data to identify patterns that human doctors missed, especially in pediatric cases where symptoms often mimic common illnesses. I had assembled a team of 12 brilliant engineers and data scientists, and together we had created something that could change medicine forever. The FDA was interested, hospitals were calling, and venture capitalists were throwing money at us faster than we could count it. My business partner and co-founder, David Morrison, had been with me since day one. We met at MIT 23 years ago, and he was the business operations expert to my technical vision. I handled the engineering and product development while he managed investors, legal issues, and day-to-day operations. We had built 2 smaller companies together before Medcor, and I trusted him completely. He was like the brother I never had, which is exactly what made what happened next so devastating. During our Series B funding round, 3 major venture capital firms were competing to lead a $60 million investment that would take us to market nationwide. Goldman Sachs had already committed to backing our IPO within 18 months. Everything looked perfect from the outside, but I was struggling personally. My divorce had become complicated and expensive. My ex-husband was fighting for custody of our 15-year-old daughter, and the stress was affecting my sleep and decision-making ability. I started noticing small changes in how the team treated me. Conversations would stop when I entered rooms. David would take calls and close his office door, something he had never done before. Investors who used to call me directly started going through him instead. When I brought up my concerns, he assured me that everyone was just stressed about the funding round and that I was reading too much into normal business dynamics. The warning signs were everywhere, but I was so focused on perfecting our technology that I ignored them. During board meetings, David would subtly contradict my technical explanations or suggest that my vision was too ambitious for immediate implementation. He started scheduling key meetings when I was traveling for conferences or dealing with my custody battle. Other board members began questioning my emotional stability and ability to lead the company through rapid growth. The setup was so sophisticated that I almost admire it now. While I was focused on debugging our neural network algorithms and preparing for FDA submissions, David was systematically undermining my position with investors and board members. He was painting me as a brilliant but unstable technical founder who needed to be transitioned out of leadership for the company's own good. The venture capitalists, led by Harrison Webb from Northbridge Capital, were already planning my removal before I even knew there was a problem. They moved fast once they decided to act. On a Tuesday morning in March, I arrived at the office to find David, Harrison Webb, and our company attorney waiting in the conference room. They had called an emergency board meeting without notifying me, which should have been impossible according to our bylaws. Harrison informed me that the board had voted to remove me as CEO, effective immediately, due to concerns about my leadership during a critical growth phase. The betrayal was surgical in its cruelty. They offered me a settlement package that would let me keep my founder's shares, but required me to sign a non-compete agreement that would prevent me from working in healthcare AI for 5 years. David, my partner of 23 years, sat there silently while they dismantled everything we had built together. When I looked at him for support, he finally spoke up to say that this decision was in the best interest of the company and our employees. I discovered later that David had been negotiating with Harrison Webb for months behind my back. They had planned to bring in a new CEO, while David remained as president and took over all my technical responsibilities. The new CEO was Harrison's former colleague from Goldman Sachs, someone with no healthcare experience, but plenty of connections to push through a fast IPO. They were planning to cash out within 12 months, leaving the company's mission far behind. The legal documents they presented showed months of preparation. They had documentation of every time I had seemed stressed or emotional during meetings. They had testimony from employees about my mood swings and demanding perfectionism. They had financial projections showing how much faster the company would grow under new leadership. Everything was designed to make me look like an unstable founder who needed to be saved from herself. The humiliation was immediate and public. Tech blogs reported that Medcor AI had parted ways with its founder due to strategic differences about company direction. Industry insiders whispered that I had suffered a breakdown under pressure. Former colleagues stopped returning my calls. Investors who had courted me for years suddenly treated me like I was toxic. My professional reputation, built over 25 years of innovation and integrity, was destroyed in a single news cycle. For 3 months, I lived in a fog of depression and disbelief. I had lost my company, my income, my professional identity, and my faith in people I had considered family. The non-compete agreement meant I couldn't even start over in the field I had devoted my entire career to advancing. My savings were gone, my daughter was angry about our financial instability, and I spent most days in pajamas, questioning every decision I had ever made. I tried traditional legal routes first. 3 different attorneys told me that while the board's actions seemed unethical, they were technically legal because I had never maintained majority control of voting shares. The corporate governance documents David and I had signed during our first funding round gave investors the power to remove leadership if they deemed it necessary. I had signed away my own protection without even realizing it. The breaking point came when I saw David being interviewed on Bloomberg television about Medcor's successful Series C funding round. He was sitting in the CEO chair I had occupied for 7 years, talking about his vision for healthcare AI and how the company was positioned for explosive growth under new leadership. He even wore the same blue tie he had worn to my grandmother's funeral, a small detail that felt like a deliberate insult. That night, I stopped crying and started planning. If they wanted to play corporate warfare, they had chosen the wrong opponent. I had 2 advantages they didn't know about. First, I understood the technology better than anyone else on their team. And second, I had been documenting everything for years out of habit. While they celebrated their victory, I began studying every contract, every investor agreement, and every piece of corporate communication I could access. My first discovery was that David had been inflating user engagement metrics in investor presentations for over a year. Our AI platform showed impressive diagnostic accuracy in controlled trials, but real-world adoption by hospitals was much slower than he was reporting. He was using preliminary pilot program data as if it represented full implementation results, a practice that bordered on securities fraud. The second revelation was even better. Harrison Webb's investment firm had a strict policy against investing in companies where partners had prior business relationships with founders. David had never disclosed our previous 2 companies to Northbridge Capital, which meant their entire investment was based on false representations. If this came to light, it would destroy both David's reputation and Harrison's position at his firm. But the most beautiful discovery was buried in our employee handbook. David had implemented a whistleblower protection policy the previous year to satisfy investor requirements for corporate governance. Any employee who reported ethical violations would be protected from retaliation and eligible for financial rewards if their reports led to significant recoveries. David had literally created the weapon I would use to destroy him. I spent 6 months building my case with the patience of someone who had finally found her true calling. I reached out to former employees who had left the company under suspicious circumstances. I connected with hospital administrators who had been pressured into signing contracts based on inflated performance claims. I documented every instance where David had misrepresented data to investors or regulators, creating a timeline that revealed systematic fraud spanning 18 months. My secret weapon was Dr. Jennifer Park, our former head of clinical trials, who had been forced out 3 months before my removal. Jennifer had been documenting David's pressure to manipulate trial data and had saved every email and recorded several phone conversations. She was angry about being scapegoated for David's ethical violations and eager to see justice served. Together, we built a case that would destroy not just David, but everyone who had participated in covering up his fraud. I also discovered that I wasn't David's only victim. 2 other female founders in Harrison Webb's portfolio had been removed from their companies under similar circumstances, both involving questions about their emotional stability and leadership capabilities. This pattern of gender discrimination gave me additional leverage and potential allies who were equally motivated to see Harrison's career destroyed. The first phase of my revenge was beautifully simple. I used my industry connections to recruit 3 of Medcor's best engineers for my new company, offering them equity packages that would make them wealthy when we went public. David couldn't match my offers because Medcor's budget was committed to the flashy new CEO's expansion plans. Losing key technical talent right before their IPO timeline would create massive problems for investor confidence. Simultaneously, I began reaching out to the hospital systems that Medcor was counting on for revenue growth. Using my reputation and relationships built over decades in healthcare technology, I convinced several major clients to delay their implementations pending industry evaluation of competing solutions. I wasn't sabotaging their existing contracts, just creating uncertainty about future growth that would hurt their valuation. The second phase involved strategic media placement. I had Jennifer Park submit her whistleblower complaint to the Securities and Exchange Commission while I leaked carefully selected documents to investigative journalists who specialized in corporate fraud. The beauty was that everything we revealed was completely factual and documented. We weren't creating scandal, just exposing the truth they had been hiding from investors and regulators. When the story broke, it was more devastating than I had imagined. The Wall Street Journal published a detailed investigation into Medcor's inflated metrics and David's undisclosed conflicts of interest with investors. The SEC announced an investigation into possible securities fraud. Harrison Webb was placed on administrative leave pending an internal review of his investment practices. David's carefully constructed reputation as an ethical business leader crumbled in 48 hours. But I wasn't finished. Phase 3 was about building something better than what they had destroyed. While Medcor dealt with regulatory investigations and investor lawsuits, I launched CareLink AI with the team I had assembled. We had improved on every aspect of Medcor's technology, using lessons learned from their clinical trials to build a more accurate and efficient diagnostic platform. My new company attracted funding from investors who were specifically interested in supporting female-founded healthcare technology companies. Within 6 months, we had raised $40 million and signed contracts with 3 major hospital systems that had previously been considering Medcor. Our technology was superior, our business practices were transparent, and our clinical trial results were exceeding every benchmark in the industry. The final phase was watching their complete collapse unfold naturally. The SEC investigation revealed that David had been manipulating data for over 2 years, resulting in criminal charges for securities fraud. Harrison Webb's investment firm lost over $200 million when Medcor's valuation collapsed, leading to his termination and industry blacklisting, The new CEO they had brought in resigned after 3 months when it became clear that the company was unsalvageable. Medcor filed for bankruptcy protection exactly 18 months after they had removed me as CEO. Their technology was sold to a competitor for $8 million, less than 15% of their peak valuation. David agreed to a plea bargain that included 5 years of prison time and permanent disbarment from serving as an executive in any publicly traded company. Harrison Webb moved to a small regional investment firm where he manages portfolios worth less than he used to lose in bad quarterly decisions. The sweetest moment came when Jennifer Park called to tell me that she had received a whistleblower reward of $3.2 million from the SEC for her role in exposing Medcor's fraud. She immediately invested half of it in CareLink AI, becoming our first major individual investor and joining our board of directors. Justice had literally paid for itself. Today, CareLink AI is valued at over $200 million and preparing for our IPO next year. Our diagnostic platform is used in over 50 hospitals across 12 states, and we have saved thousands of lives through earlier detection of rare diseases. I employ 47 people who share in our success through equity ownership, and I make sure that every business decision reflects the values of integrity and transparency that Medcor abandoned. My daughter, now 18 and heading to Stanford for computer science, tells her friends that her mom is living proof that the best revenge is massive success. She's right, but it's more than that. The best revenge is building something so much better than what they destroyed that their betrayal becomes the catalyst for your greatest achievement. I never thanked David for forcing me to discover my true potential, but I should have. Being pushed out of Medcor taught me that I didn't need their permission to change the world. I just needed the courage to bet on myself and the patience to execute a plan that would make their victory the foundation of my empire. Every morning when I walk into my corner office overlooking Silicon Valley, I remember that they thought destroying me would be the end of my story. Instead, it was just the beginning of theirs. When people ask me how I survived the worst betrayal of my professional life, I tell them the same thing I told that Bloomberg reporter who interviewed me last month about being named Healthcare Tech CEO of the Year. Sometimes the most beautiful revenge is proving that they were never worthy of your partnership in the first place. If this story inspired you to never let anyone underestimate a woman over 40 who knows her worth, smash that like button and subscribe because we're just getting started. The comment section is full of incredible women sharing their own stories of triumph over betrayal, and I read every single one. Your support means everything to me, and together we're building a community that proves justice and success are the sweetest combination in the world.